Hey everybody, this is Jim Decker, the designer of this awesome XTR Stomper here. We're going to go over a step-by-step instructions on how to get this thing assembled. We've got quite a few components here. We got some pedals and a billet stem. We've got a threadless fork. We got the bars here. We'll have some adjustment on the 3-speed. Also followed up starting with the assembly of the front rotor. And we'll go over a list of tools that you will need. We do highly suggest a bike mechanic assemble this, but if you want to take a stab at it, we're sure you can get it done. My general manager, Shimano Service Tech Tom, will be narrating through this. If you have any further questions, please feel free to give us a call, 657-215-0099, and let's begin. All right, we're going to go over a item list of tools you'll be needing.
So we're going to need an 8mm Allen wrench, a 6mm Allen wrench, a 5mm Allen wrench, and a 4mm Allen wrench, as well as a T25 torque wrench for the rotor bolts, and a 15mm wrench to install your front wheel. And also you want to have a pressure gauge so you can inflate your tires to approximately 30 psi, and you want to check that every couple of days. Also, you're going to need some grease, so you can put the grease on the threads of your pedals and anything that has a thread on it. You want to have a little bit of grease on it.
All right, well, if you're lucky as us, we have an axle vise to put the front wheel in, so we're going to go ahead and show you how to go ahead and put the rotor on.
Just lay the rotor flat onto the hub. Get one of your rotor bolts. Start that threaded in there, and then you can continue around.
And also note that the rotor is also directional. There's going to be an arrow on that, so you want to make sure you follow and make sure the rotor is going to be going in the correct direction, matching the rear. So actually, once we actually get these in, we're going to go ahead and cinch them down and move on to the next. Alright, if you've got an axle vise, this is going to be the quickest and easiest way to tighten your rotor onto the hub here. And specific torque is going to be right around
6 Newton meters.
Oh, there you go. Alright, next we're going to move on to the Super Trick aluminum threadless fork here, and a lot of people are going to be asking why this is not on the bike. Well, unfortunately FedEx gets pretty rough with these boxes when they freight them, and we really want to protect the fork and not have it bent by the time you get it. So from here we're going to go ahead and put this
rubber dust seal, which just sets down on the lower crown race. Then we're going to slide the fork into the head tube. At this point, we're going to use the tapered conical washer, which is a split ring, and set that down into the top bearing race. Then you'll put your aluminum top cap cover on the fork. It's got a rubber O-ring on it, so you need to kind of slide it straight down. From here, we're just going to install our spacer stack.
Now keep in mind, if you're a shorter rider and you want this not so tall, you can actually cut this fork down and take out some of these spacers. Now also you can get a bar riser on here like we've done to this prototype XTR here if you want to get the riding position up a little bit further above the rings there. These retail for about $29.95, and we have those in stock if you're interested in getting the riding height up on your handlebars a little bit further.
Also, if you want to adjust the height of your stem without cutting the fork, you can remove a spacer and install it on top of the fork.
Ah, yes.
Then you're just going to get your compression ring. And snug that down with your 5mm Allen wrench. So you're going to want to rotate the fork left and right and make sure that you've got a good adjustment on it with no play in it. Once you've accomplished that, you'll use your 6mm Allen wrench and tighten down on your binder bolts.
So you got a binder bolt on each side, and this is going to cinch the billet housing onto the top here. From here, we're going to go ahead and mount the handlebar into the billet clamp here. Now this is a 31.8mm stem here opening, so if you just want to do some sort of different style of handlebar down the road, keep in mind that's a 31/8. So we've got all 4 bolts kind of already pre-started here. We're going to go ahead and tighten those up just a little bit so we can get the bars positioned. And I've got this really cool groovy horn on mine already. Alright, so we're going to get these cinched down fairly tight but not completely tight with the number 4 here. You'll want to actually get position on the bike and get the handlebars correctly, what feels most comfortable to you before you actually cinch these down. Tightening wise as well,
6 Newton meters.
about 6 Newton meters there. Alright, next we're going to move on to the installation of the front wheel.
I'm going to remove the axle nuts and install the optional bike spikes.
So from here we're just going to drop it down into the fork here. Get that positioned up here. There's also some little safety washers here that are going to slide up and around and hook into the first little hole there. This is actually a little safety washer just in case the tire comes loose for whatever reason. It'll keep the tire from dropping out of the fork. Now also keep in mind that once these forks cool from my factory, they might bow in just a little bit, so they're pretty much spot on. You might need to do a little bit of adjustment, pulling them out just a fraction to get the front wheel hub into place there. Alright, from here we're going to work on getting the caliper in place on the front fork. Now the rear is already installed at the factory here, so you're going to kind of duplicate what you're seeing over here. So this is pretty easy. You'll just put it around the rotor and go ahead and put your lock bolts in here.
And then just install your circlips into the fork tabs.
Alright, so we've actually got the caliper on there. You might need to spin it a little bit and do some adjustment. Very fine adjustment in there. Like I say, we definitely suggest taking it to a local bike shop and letting a professional finish the assembly on here. So,
And just feel free to loosen the bolts to the brake adapter so that you can center the caliper around the rotor.
for those of you who are a stickler like me, I like everything absolutely 100% perfect. So there's actually an adjustment, little barrel right down in here. It's a teeny, see if I can get in there. It's a teeny, there it is, a teeny tiny 1.5 millimeter. And what you can do is get a small Allen in there and turn it a couple turns clockwise, and that's actually going to bring the lever out and give you a little bit more brake grab. You'll find most high-end mountain bike riders that know this little trick here. So if you want, looking for a little bit more throw on your brake lever there like I do, go ahead and take that 1.5 and turn it, start off with a quarter turn up to a half turn, and see how that lever is feeling for you. You'll also notice I'm using these really trick billet locking grips here. So You'll also want to go ahead and tighten these little cinch bolts on each side of these billet clamps here, which is a number 3, and tighten those down. I've already cranked them down, but you want to go ahead and crank those down tight. Followed up by, once you get the bike on the ground, go ahead and get your handlebars where you need them. Get these cinched down. Be sure you tighten up your crossbar bolts here, and just do another thorough check with tightening up your axle bolts and whatnot. All right, still working on the handlebars here. You're going to see some clamps here for the crossbar. You want to go ahead and get a
5mm Allen wrench.
Get a 5mm Allen wrench and go ahead and just cinch these down a little tighter, which we've already done. You want to get these as tight as possible on both sides. There you go. So from here, we're going to go ahead and show you how to do the install on the pedals. All right, let's not forget about putting the grease on the threads here. This is going to be a 9/16 threaded pedal, and we're going to be using a 8mm Allen. It doesn't have the traditional 15mm flats on it. Also keep in mind, when you're putting your seat post in, which we've already done, is you're going to put some lubrication on that as well in terms of the oil there. From here, we're just going to move down to the crank, and you'll use your 8mm to grab inside of it to go ahead and cinch that up. Now this is a billet pedal here, a little bit more streamlined looking and definitely unique. And you'll go ahead and crank that down pretty tight. Now the pedals are marked left and right, so please pay attention on that. All right, now that we have the billet pedals installed, what you're looking at here is a new stainless steel chain that will never rust. It's pretty much maintenance free, but we do suggest maybe picking up some slick lube or some clean ride, or take it down to your local bike shop and let them throw a little bit of lubrication on this chain, maybe every 4 to 6 months depending on where you live. If you're in a lot of salty conditions, even though it won't rust, you still want to keep this chain a little bit lubricated. So from here, we're looking at the Sturmey hub. I've got a separate video which is included, and it's going to show you the adjustment of your shift mechanism here. Now keep in mind that over time this cable will stretch just a bit, and you'll actually follow the same procedures of adjusting it. So if you're riding it and it's not going into first, or it's in first and popping into second, you're going to go ahead and get some of the slack out of here and make this taunt. Also, you're going to notice a clicking noise while pedaling the unit here. First gear is basically moving all 3 gears within the internal hub here, but when you're in second and third gear, you're going to hear a clicking kind of 10-speed sound noise. It's nature of the hub here. It will dissipate a little bit once that planet cage breaks in a little bit, so don't be alarmed when you're pedaling and you're hearing a clicking sound. So perfectly normal. And like I say, if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call anytime. All right, well, we are getting very close here. We're going to go ahead and start the last finishing touches here. We're going to go ahead and want to add, like I say, about 28 to 30 psi in these tires. Now keep in mind, you're going to want to air these tires up and at least check your tire pressure every ride or so. They're not going to be losing air, but they definitely don't sustain the tire pressure at 30 for too long. If you're in a heavily thorned area like Arizona here, we also do suggest getting some tire slime, taking the valve stem out, dumping a bunch of slime in there and air it back up. That'll help with the thorns if you're in a really thorny area. All right, well, here's some final little tips, and you're wondering why the X-Tower is sitting upside down. You see right here on the bottom of your bottom bracket, you got your serial numbers. Do yourself a huge favor and write those serial numbers down. Send me an email with them. We'll put them in your invoice. This will be one of the very first bikes to go. You want to make sure that you have your serial numbers. And secondly, you want to do a better job than others on locking this bike, particularly if you're going to be leaving it sight unseen. We've teamed up with Avis locks. This is the Bordeaux foldable lock. and we're going to show you how it operates. It's holstered right into this neat little pack here, right along the side of the frame. It opens up, fans out, and you can actually just run it through the back part of your frame here and onto something, a pole, another bike hooked up to something. We've had customers that actually have two Stompers, and you can actually marry these together. We do offer these locks. They run about $69. Like I say, if you don't decide to go this direction, do invest in a premium lock. A couple other final notes here. Cleaning wise, Windex, Microsoft cloth will get it done. Once again, tire pressure about 30 psi. Maybe invest in some tire slime. And after about a good 20-30 rides, take it down to your local bike shop, get an initial tune-up done, get everything tightened up. Keep in mind the spokes will loosen up, the chain will loosen up. You want to go ahead and get everything re-tightened after, like I say, your good first 20-plus rides. If you have any further questions, please feel free to give us a call anytime, 657-215-0099. And that basically wraps up our 2017 XTR Billet Stomper assembly.